I never had really anything against him other than, previously I talked about what he does with, with the stunt guys. But it's ironic that Steven would not call me a martial artist because, it's like, well, when you think of martial arts, you think of being healthy, humble, respectful, discipline, all of that stuff that all has Steven Seagal written all over it, does it not? That's a healthy, humble, respectful guy, would you think?
DMX once said Steven Seagal talked to him like an old slave master. And no, he wasn't exaggerating. That was real. That line should have been everywhere, but instead, it got buried under secret deals and guarded by Hollywood elites too shook to let the truth out. This wasn't just some petty Onset beef. This was DMX, a full-blown rap icon, clashing with the guy folks now call one of the most disrespectful, smooth-talking actors out there. That movie set, total chaos. It felt like a war zone. DMX walked into straight madness, people getting hurt, bad energy everywhere, and mentally...
Hollywood tough guy, in your opinion. You accept it, of course.
When you say tough guy, do you mean martial artist or just tough guy?
I mean, Steven, for real, if he was on the street and there was a situation, you wanted this Hollywood guy by your side because he could defend himself. It's that hard to think of a legit one?
Can you think of one?
Michael Jai White.
Can I laugh in your face?
Really?
Yes.
He was wiped, and who was right there stirring the mess? Steven Seagal. Yeah, the same dude who moved like he was stuck in slow motion, always flipping his hair like he was some kung fu king. Back then, people thought he was the next Bruce Lee. But behind that fake calm voice and action star image, he was stacking lawsuits, moving shady, and leaving behind wild horror stories. Now that the truth's coming out, it's looking spooky. DMX and Michael Jai White are finally breaking the silence. Long before Hollywood gave him the spotlight, Seagal claimed he was in Japan, living like some martial arts monk. An American mastering secret dojo skills. Sounds epic, right? But most of that, total smoke. Yeah, he trained in Aikido, that smooth, energy-flipping style. But the whole first American to teach Aikido in Japan thing?
You go watch the other guys. What do you think of Jeff Speakman or Van Damme? Do you know Van Damme?
No.
You've heard of him.
I felt like Steven embarrassed himself. Because, Steven hired me 3 different times himself. Why? If I'm not a good martial artist. And he hired me for the Nissan Soup ads for Japan, and I was a choreographer and everything else. He hired me for On Deadly Ground, which is a movie he directed, right? Hired me personally, offered me a role that I didn't really take because I thought it was silly. And then, of course, I'm in the movie with him in Exit Wounds.
Straight up fiction. Real martial arts historians been calling that out for years. What really gave Seagal clout wasn't his moves, it was his first wife, Miyako. Her father was a respected Aikido master, and just like that, Seagal got instant access to the dojo. He didn't earn the legend, he inherited it. That whole mystical foreigner mastering the East vibe, built off someone else's name. Seagal wasn't just about martial arts, he was about power. Behind that stiff stare and mumbly voice was a guy obsessed with control. He didn't just want respect. He wanted to run the show every time he stepped in a room, and let's be real, Aikido's cool, but it's not flashy for the big screen. So what did he do? He twisted the game to make himself look like the ultimate warrior. Seagal took chaos and turned it into a show, literally. He cranked up the intensity, made things look way rougher than they were. His real trick, crafting a look, all black gear, moving like molasses, whispering like he had secrets no one else could handle. It wasn't some ancient martial code, it was pure branding. When Above the Law dropped in '88, it was an instant explosion. He didn't just play a cop, he was the no-nonsense tough guy America couldn't stop watching. Suddenly, he was snapping limbs, meditating mid-fight and delivering one-liners like a stone-cold warrior. That lone wolf vibe hit perfect during the Reagan years when audiences were craving heroes who didn't answer to anyone. Seagal slid right into that fantasy. Studios were tossing him roles non-stop. Hard to kill, marked for death, under siege, straight bangers. In Under Siege, he played a Navy cook who secretly could destroy trained terrorists on a battleship. A cook. Meanwhile, in real life, dude could barely jog without catching his breath. But that was classic Seagal smoke and mirrors. While fans were loving it behind the scenes, total chaos. Directors said he was impossible, and writers couldn't stand working with him.
Well, you had trouble with Steven Seagal on a film you did together, correct?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you know.
He seems like such a doll. It's surprising.
I mean, he hurt, a few people on the set purposely, and it's like, if you're acting and we're working together, I'm trusting you not to, take advantage of the situation and vice versa, and to do the things he did on the set, man, I was like, yo,
How did he hurt him? Like rushing for a sandwich on the service table?
He put one guy's, stunt guy put his head through the window. Really? He was just supposed to act like he hit him. He actually grabbed the guy and pushed his head through the window, and the one move where he has my arms behind my back, and we're both supposed to drop to the ground at the same time. On cue, I drop, and he stays up, dislocated my shoulder.
Really?
But what goes around comes around, and he ended up hurting himself on the set and was out for 2 weeks. So.
Oh, good.
Seagal didn't even bother learning his lines, and actors straight up avoided him. Then came that infamous SNL disaster in '91. And wow, it was bad. He was picked to host, but by the end of the night, producers were calling him the worst host ever. Juliana Sweeney even said he shut down a sketch where he'd play a therapist who falls for a patient. Red flags? More like sirens. People weren't just saying he was difficult, they were saying he gave them serious creeps. He didn't get banned for swearing or wild behavior on air. He got banned just for making everyone uncomfortable. That's next level weird. While Seagal was tanking his own image, real martial artists were peeping game, and they weren't impressed. Michael Jai White, a legit black belt and tournament beast, worked with him and spotted the phony energy instantly. To Michael, Seagal was all ego and no substance. Dude was mocking stuntmen, acting like martial arts was a party trick, and throwing slick shade at black and Latino fighters. That didn't sit right with real ones. And then there was Jean-Claude Van Damme, an actual kickboxing champ, not just some movie guy. The tension between him and Seagal, ice cold. Seagal used to brag he could take Van Damme in a fight. Seriously? Van Damme was out here doing perfect splits and spinning heel kicks, while Seagal moved like he had bricks strapped to his feet. At one Hollywood party, Van Damme even called him out, told him, "Let's go." And what did Seagal do? He straight dipped, walked right out the back door. No talk, no fist, just gone. But the craziest story? That belongs to Gene LaBelle, the grappling legend no one messes with. Seagal was feeling himself on set one day, claiming no one could choke him out because he had some made-up secret breathing technique. Gene said, "Bet," and dropped him cold. Word is, Seagal didn't just black out. He lost control of his bowels when he hit the floor. He still denies it, but Gene and multiple folks back it up. And it didn't stop there. While filming, Seagal went rogue on stuntman Finn Thorson. Straight up hit him in the throat, no heads up, no choreography, just pure ego. Even after all that, Seagal kept flexing like he was untouchable. He even said Michael Jai White wasn't a real martial artist. Michael Jai White, a guy who trained with legends and choreographed massive blockbusters. Seagal really thought he could play that card. Truth is, Seagal couldn't handle real fighters. He built a myth, but once the legit pros showed up, they saw right through the act.
I did a movie with him called Executive Decision.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oh yeah, all three of you saw it. and the first day we get together for rehearsal with the actors and the director, he comes in. I mean, come on, what I say is law. You disagree? And I started cracking. I was like, I thought he was kidding. We were just hanging out.
Yeah.
And he Aikido'd me against the brick wall. Pow! Knocked all the air out of me. I was like, what? What? Yeah. I mean, what I really want to say is how big and fat he is and how he runs like a... Look at it online. You can see he runs like this. I'm not kidding.
By 2001, Seagal's career was barely hanging on. One flop after another, and chaos following him like a shadow. His brand was cracked, and Hollywood was slowly backing away. But he needed to come back bad, and Warner Bros. Tried to throw him a lifeline. They built a powerhouse lineup for exit wounds. Seagal, Michael Jai White, and DMX. Gritty Detroit cop drama, dirty politics, and hard-hitting action. It had all the makings of a hit. But from the jump, Seagal showed up acting like he owned the place. No rehearsals, no respect, no script, just pure ego. He disrespected the stunt team, broke every rule, and walked around like he was untouchable. Things got dangerous fast. Stuntmen were getting really hurt. One guy had his face split open from cheek to jaw because Seagal refused to pull his hits. That wasn't authentic. That was reckless. And it got worse. During a scene where fake glass was supposed to be used, Seagal allegedly picked a guy up and slammed him through a real glass window. No warning, no heads up. But the real tragedy? Day one of filming, stuntman Chris Lamont lost his life in a car stunt gone wrong. His head hit the pavement. He was rushed to the hospital but didn't make it. It shook the entire crew. And who was sitting right at the center of all that chaos? Seagal. The same guy tossing safety rules out the window? Yep, Steven Seagal. Now imagine being DMX in that mess. You show up ready to work, and your co-star won't stick to the script. He talks down to everyone, goes off-book during scenes, and turns fight choreography into real brawls. Someone dies on set, and Seagal just keeps moving like it's business as usual. DMX wasn't the type to whine, but even he had a breaking point. In one scene, Seagal was supposed to do a simple choreographed arrest move. Instead, he bailed mid-action, let go early, and DMX's shoulder popped out of place. Then came the quote that exposed everything. According to Nicki Swift, DMX said Seagal talked to him like an old slave master. And after filming Wrapped, he didn't stay quiet. In interview after interview, DMX said Seagal was flat out disrespectful, aggressive, and acted like the black cast and crew didn't matter. It wasn't just words, it was how he gave commands, how he refused to say DMX's name, barking orders like folks were beneath him. DMX, already fired up, decided to send a message. In the next scene, he landed a real punch.
Steven Seagal was so horrible on such a scale. It was such a huge scale of terribleness that it wasn't undeniable by anyone who was there. I remember at one point he locked himself in this dressing room because he said, "You're saying Hans and Franz could beat me up, and I'm not coming out of the dressing room until you change the sketch." Like, I mean, it was really legendary, crazy to.
No acting, no camera tricks, just raw payback. And here's where it gets wild. Exit Wounds made over $80 million worldwide, but behind that box office win, pure trauma. DMX never worked with Seagal again. Neither did Michael Jai White. Rewatch the film today, and you can feel the tension jumping off the screen. Michael even said cast and crew were coming up to him on set one by one, literally begging him to knock Seagal out. That's how toxic things got. And let's be real, Michael could have folded Seagal like Takeout in under 30 seconds if he wanted to, but he kept it cool. Even years later, when Seagal threw shade in interviews saying Michael wasn't a real fighter, Michael clapped back with style, no yelling, just facts. He didn't need to get loud to expose the truth. You think after all that mess on Exit Wounds, Seagal would chill? Nope. He doubled down with urban justice, and things got worse. This time, Seagal played a white vigilante who moves into a black neighborhood to avenge his son's death. And trust, it's just as messy as it sounds. The movie plays like a Facebook meme with a badge. Seagal walks around blasting black gang members with no trial, no consequences, and somehow the plot still tries to make him the hero. He barely even speaks. He just shows up and starts shooting. He died on day one, and the movie still tried to spin it like a white savior fantasy, straight out of the 90s and not in a good way. But Seagal leaned into it hard, turning that outdated storyline into his whole brand. By the mid-2000s, it was a wrap. Seagal wasn't just washed, he was radioactive. Lawsuits piling up, constant drama, and his health falling apart. Hollywood hit the brakes, and he straight up vanished. Then suddenly, boom, he pops up in Russia. In 2016, Vladimir Putin gave him full Russian citizenship, not just for show either. These two were tight.
Well, you had trouble with Steven Seagal on a film you did together, correct?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you know.
He seems like such a doll. It's surprising.
You call him white boy, motherfucker.
I felt like Steven embarrassed himself. Because, I mean, Steven hired me 3 different times himself. Why?
Putin gave him awards, called him brother, and they bonded over martial arts like old dojo buddies. Seagal started walking around Moscow in robes, talking about spiritual energy like he found inner peace. But let's not get it twisted. This wasn't just about judo and vibes, it was chess, not checkers. Russia doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US. So if Seagal ever had to answer for the dirt in his past, the US couldn't touch him. He made himself untouchable. But the real question is, untouchable from what? Because this man's closet, packed with skeletons. Let's get into it. And this ain't just spooky Hollywood gossip. We're talking lawsuits, sealed NDAs, assault claims, mob ties, even dead pets. Seagal's name carried a dark cloud everywhere he went. Let's rewind to 1991. While filming Out for Justice, 3 Warner Brothers employees, Ann Malone, Nicole Sell, and Christine Keeve, accused Seagal of harassment. Instead of facing it head-on, Warner quietly dropped $50,000 in out-of-court settlements for 2 of them. The headlines? Gone overnight. But that was just the beginning. Around that same time, at least 4 more actresses came forward, accusing Seagal of pulling shady moves during late-night casting sessions. No script, no witnesses, just him, alone, calling it a chemistry test. Yeah, that didn't sound right even back then. Total casting couch setup. Then Jenny McCarthy dropped a bomb. She said during an audition for Under Siege 2, Seagal told her to strip, even though there was 0 nudity in the role. What? And in 1995, it got even worse. Cheryl Schumann filed a lawsuit accusing Seagal of harassment, discrimination, and straight-up assault during On Deadly Ground. The pattern wasn't subtle. It was loud and nasty. By 2010, you'd think this guy would be done, but nope. Instead, he was starring in a reality show, playing dress-up as a sheriff like none of it ever happened. Then came Kaden Nguyen. At just 23, she filed a $1 million lawsuit against Seagal, and her claims? Next level disturbing. She said Seagal kept multiple women in his home, calling them assistants, but behind closed doors, it was something way darker. The case blew up fast. The reality show got suspended. And then, just 3 months later, she dropped the lawsuit. No statement, no reason, just silence. Then, in 2011, Seagal took things from Hollywood drama to real-life madness with a tank. Yeah, a literal tank. Jesus Sanchez Lovera sued him after Seagal rolled up to his house during a sheriff's raid for the reality show. The man was under investigation for cockfighting, but Seagal's team didn't just assist, they wrecked his home and allegedly shot and killed the family's 11-month-old puppy during the chaos. Lovera filed a $100,000 lawsuit, but it got tossed on a technicality. Still, the damage was done. And yes, they aired it like it was entertainment. By 2017, the Me Too movement hit hard and Seagal's name started showing up again. Actress Portia de Rossi tweeted that during an audition, Seagal told her chemistry off-screen mattered, then unzipped his pants right in front of her. And Katherine Heigl, she said he joked about dating girls her age. She was just 16 at the time. Then there's that disturbing press photo from the Under Siege 2 tour. Seagal's hand clearly across Katherine Heigl's chest, and she was still a teen. That photo aged horribly, but it didn't stop there. Dutch model Fabiola Dattis spoke out, so did actress Rachel Grant, and Regina Simons, a former model and extra, publicly accused Seagal of assaulting her back in 1993. These weren't random claims. This was a pattern, loud and clear. But Seagal wasn't just causing chaos in Hollywood. He got caught up with the mob, too. In the early 2000s, his ex-producer, Julius Nasso, tried shaking him down for $3 million after Seagal backed out of a film deal. But Nasso didn't go to court. He went straight to the Gambino crime family. Seagal ended up dragged into a sit-down with Gambino Captain Anthony Ciccone in Brooklyn. The message was simple: pay up, make the movies, or else. Eventually, the feds stepped in, arrested the crew, and guess who testified? Seagal. He snitched in court, and it was the only time the law almost got close. And even then, his name wasn't even on the indictment. Then came the rumors. Tax dodging, unpaid debts, lawsuits stacking up, and the IRS circling. His money situation? A mess. So when Seagal vanished to Russia, it wasn't for peace and spiritual energy. It was to escape the storm. Seagal didn't just run, he rebranded. In Russia, he became a full-on poster boy, pushing pro-Kremlin propaganda like it was his 9 to 5. In one of his latest projects, In the Name of Justice, he strolls through war-torn Ukraine, blaming the Ukrainians for their own suffering. The whole thing was straight propaganda. Russia painted as noble peacekeepers, Ukrainians cast as the villains in their own war. And it got worse. In a 2020 clip, Seagal called Ukrainians Nazis. The internet lit him up not just for the lies, but for saying stuff that sounded flat out racist. And let's not forget when he randomly jumped into the NFL protest drama in 2017. Athletes were peacefully kneeling during the anthem to protest police brutality. And Seagal, sitting in Moscow, chimed in like anyone asked for his opinion from across the globe. But truth is, none of this should have been a surprise. Directors knew, producers knew, every stunt team knew. Seagal's behavior wasn't hidden, it was just ignored. No massive cancellation, no blacklist, just a quiet fade into straight-to-DVD flops and bargain bin foreign films no one remembers. Why? Because that's how power moves. Hollywood didn't kick him out, they just stopped pretending to care. When the money stopped rolling in, Hollywood didn't cancel Seagal, they just stopped cashing checks with his name on them. The machine rode with him all the way until the box office dried up. Only then did they quietly let him fade out, and by the time DMX and Michael Jai White started speaking up, it was already too late. The industry had moved on. Their stories weren't seen as scandals. They were just leftovers from a system that used Seagal up and tossed him without a second thought. Steven Seagal hustled his way through fame, power, and nonstop controversy. He fooled an entire generation while keeping that stone-cold act going, but now, the curtain's finally falling. And this time, it ain't for a movie. If you made it this far, smash that like button, hit subscribe for more jaw-dropping Hollywood breakdowns, and don't forget to drop a comment. Was Seagal always shady, or did people just ignore the signs too long? Share this video with someone who still thinks he's a legend, and we'll catch you on the next one.